Welcome to the Gem Series, powered by Rocket Level. On this podcast, we empower entrepreneurs to succeed by setting big goals, executing like a pro, and having a fearless mindset. The Gem Series is all about investing in yourself. We're here to share the path to getting what you want out of life by sharing the stories of entrepreneurs who have done this themselves, providing thorough research from our team on what careers and habits are yielding the best results, and discussing the mindset it takes to overcome the obstacles that all future entrepreneurs will face. Investing in yourself starts with putting in the work every single day, and this podcast is here to help you do exactly that. My name is Blake Chapman. I'm the Vice President of the Ambassador Program here at Rocket Level, and I am thrilled to be your host for the Gem Series. Hello, and welcome to today's Gem Series. I am totally thrilled to welcome today's guest, Taylor Loht. Taylor has been killing it in the real estate investment world. He actively shares his knowledge surrounding what the path to building wealth looks like, and is an expert in raising capital. So I'm personally thrilled to have him share a little bit of wisdom and experience on today's episode. Taylor, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
Blake, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. You know, I'm wearing a sweater here because it's starting to cool off, and I'm not ready to turn on the heat yet. Not giving up the summer, but
I'm right there with you. I killed the AC about a week ago. Been leaving the doors open. Just this is like my thriving season. I love it right now. So for anybody that doesn't know about you, Taylor, would you be open to just sharing a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background?
Sure, absolutely. So a number of years ago now, I graduated from college with a degree in chemical engineering, and got a first big boy job, and was making a little bit of money, nowhere near as much as I wanted to make. And that was the first time that I had really any money. We were fine growing up. It was not that we had nothing. We were fine. But personally, I didn't really have any spending money right when I was a kid. Became an adult, had some, and I was like, well, I don't want to just spend all this. I got my needs taken care of. How do I turn it into more, right? Because I don't want to trade hours for dollars, the rest of my life. The first thing that I did actually was not real estate investing. The first book that I picked up, because I was listening to podcasts at the time, was The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, which is not one of the books that's behind me here. And that teaches you, it's kind of like the Warren Buffett value investing method in publicly traded securities. Benjamin Graham was Warren Buffett's mentor. And that got me started down the path of investing and, making money in the stock market. And because of my age, I'm in my, mid 30s now, no longer early 30s technically. Because of my age, I just happened to time the market really well. And it was kind of hard to buy the wrong thing because the market had just crashed, at that age. And after doing that for a few years and saving money, put in my retirement accounts, and then I had money left over and just, investing that and living very frugally, because those early years are really important in terms of investing and building wealth. That's the longest time you have to compound your wealth. I was still doing the math and seeing that this is not going to get me where I want to be in the time frame that I want to get there, financially. So I started looking around for other options. How do I earn more money, make more money, build more wealth? Like what's the world of options out there? And to anybody that's gotten into it, there are a lot of ways to make money out in the world. And there are a few that I kind of gravitated to at that time. First one was kind of the standard answer that a lot of people come up against who have undergraduate degrees is, I was going to go get an MBA. So I took the GMAT. I was studying really hard at the time. I was flying around the country every week for my job, which, it was fun. I'm glad that I did it. I don't regret doing that at all. It was a great experience. But I would never want to do that again because it's just an awful way to live. I still don't like flying, even though I was flying all the time. Great time to study for a GMAT test, though. So I took that test and got a pretty good score. But right around the time, again, listening to all these podcasts, and somebody recommended one of these books over my shoulder, which we were talking about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, positives and negatives with that whole ecosystem, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad ecosystem. But the book itself really highlighted all the misgivings that I had about going and getting an MBA. It was going to be a matter of spending $300,000 in terms of tuition, room and board, and opportunity cost to basically buy myself another job. And all those jobs were not jobs that I wanted anyway. I didn't want to, again, fly around the country and be a consultant. I had done that type of a thing in the past. I knew I didn't want to do it. I don't want to go work on Wall Street in a stuffy office. I don't really like wearing a suit that much. So, and as you know, he talks a lot about real estate investing, and it's not the only thing that Kiyosaki talks about, but that book really inspires a lot of people to become real estate investors. And the same for me. He really, helped set me down the path of investing in real estate. And I could take a pause here, and but that's kind of what got me to the point where I wanted
absolutely. And for me, something that stands out as you're describing that is, I really appreciate that because I noticed this in a lot of entrepreneurs where you run into a roadblock and then you quickly assess, well, look, maybe there's something else out there. I don't really know. I don't know anything that's on the other side of this wall that's in front of me right now, but I'm going to find something. Do you think that was something that have you always been, curious minded growing up and going through life, or what can you attribute that to, you think?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. And, in hindsight, it sounds like this might have happened quickly, but this is over the matter of a couple of years, honestly. I took months to study for that test. I only really wanted to take it one time because I figured if I really study and work hard and focus, I could probably get a decent score the first shot. And I did. It was a long time ago now, though. And then I did. And I don't know. I just kind of took a pause. Like, it wasn't quite enough to get me into like the top 5 schools in the country. If I wanted to get into the top 5, just with my background and my educational background, which I was not, I graduated literally the 50th percentile of my chemical engineering class. I was the middle guy. Now, granted, a top 10 school for that, so I'm kind of proud of that. But I wasn't the top student. I'm not the greatest student. So I figured, well, I don't want to get an MBA at a so-so school that's not going to be a big step up. And if you read around in that area, really kind of the top 5, I'm working off the memory here, but like the top 5 or 6 are really the only ones that make the most sense, and you're going to be in a really good position. If you're in a top 20 MBA, it's a little, maybe. And that's kind of where I figured was maybe a top 10, probably a top 20 position. And that drove me to take a little bit of a step back and kind of reassess which way I was going to go. I mean, there were other things going on at that point in life. I was the job that I had initially, I really hated. I was in a terrible position. Nothing against the people that I was working with. They're great people. They're still there. It was just the wrong fit for me. I also, in that time period, so I hate swimming. I can swim, not very well. And so around that time, my sister decided she was going to do a triathlon. And my sister is kind of the opposite of me. She was a champion swimmer. Now she's well out of college and everything. She has been at a high school for a long time. She still holds records at the high school we went to, and it's been well over a decade since then. She's all super champion swimmer. She decided she was going to do it. And I was like, well, I can barely float, but I kind of want the challenge. So I'm going to do it too. And at that same time, so I was, teaching myself to swim, and it's spoiler. When I did go do the triathlon, I almost drowned, but I made it around.
Can I tell you something that's kind of funny is
Sure.
I'm literally going through the exact same thing right now. I've never been a strong swimmer. I've been giving myself lessons, YouTube, and I just looked up signing up for the Augusta Ironman just because
Nice.
It's just kind of funny.
Ironman.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, because I'm like, you know what? I got a big chunk of time. I've done long distance running, a little bit of that. This is going to be a huge challenge. I might need somebody to yank me out of the water, but I might as well give it a shot. So, but no, that's cool. So you pushed yourself through to make that happen. That challenge that was otherwise significantly it was out of your comfort zone.
It was an Ironman. No way would I do an Ironman. I forget, is that like a 3-mile swim, something along those lines?
Yeah.
I had to do a half a mile. It was a sprint triathlon. My sister, coincidentally, so this is just an identical something about how awesome my sister is. So the way it was staged is basically in the sprint triathlon, the men would go first, get into the lake. The lake was super cold. It was awful. And the men would go, and then the women would go. and they would give a pause between the two.
Sure.
Well, my sister went with the women, and she finished before the first man. She beat all of us like handily.
Oh my gosh.
I almost drowned. So, that's how different we are. So no, an Ironman would be way out of, like, that's too far out of my comfort zone. I'm not willing to do that. The sprint triathlon was enough for me.
Well, maybe I'll start emailing you once a week and I'll talk you into it so I can get a buddy to hit the Ironman with me. We'll figure something out. Okay. No, that's pretty incredible. And for you, I mean, I think that's something that, I think it's interesting hearing from the perspective, like, when I think of like entrepreneurs approaching new challenges, I think it's always interesting whenever folks are like, I just don't know where the drive comes from. I guess sometimes, when you're like, what is pushing me to go out of my comfort zone, almost drown, try something new? What's been your motivation kind of getting it? Because I mean, if you look back at yourself 5-10 years ago, you're probably like a radically different person than you were. I would imagine, in terms of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I don't know for sure though.
Sure. So the triathlon was, I think that was about 8 years ago that we actually did it. Mm-hmm. So I would say I'm different now. I mean, in some ways, definitely in many ways, I'm still the same. It's hard to be quite that level of self-aware, I guess, or self-analytical, at least for me, because I have a hard time knowing if I'm really, analyzing that. And I think I have a little more inner peace now than I used to. But in the question of what keeps me or anybody, wanting to push forward is, I like having a challenge. I like having something to work on. And especially as an adult, the time that I was least happy in my life was when the only thing that I had going on was a day job that I didn't like. I didn't have anything at the time in my personal life to just work on, kind of for the sake of just working on it. And since then, so after the triathlon, I relocated, moved, and everything. Now I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have a jiu-jitsu book right here.
Oh, no way. That's good.
Over this past summer, I got my purple belt. I've been training a long time, and I've had injuries here and there. I broke a couple ribs over the summer, and I'm back now. I'm healed up, but I'm also I haven't told anybody this. My fiance knows a little bit, but we haven't sat down and talked about it. I'm doing 75 hard right now. If you're familiar.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
That I don't know. I just like having that challenge.
Yeah. How deep into it are you right now?
I think, I have a Google sheet, tracking my progress. I work on Google Sheets. I think I started Labor Day was my first day, so month and a half.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's a challenge I've been wanting to take up too. My mentor is like, hey, get the app, try it out. Like, you'll be really, really pleased with yourself whenever you execute it, and it's just like a good mental challenge more than anything, I think. Which is,
I think so. That honestly, the only thing I'm not crazy about with it is taking the pictures every morning. I don't need shirtless pictures of myself. They're never going to see the light of day, but I'm doing it because I said I would do it.
Yeah.
They're not getting posted anywhere. Whether I succeed or fail, nobody's going to see them.
I'm like, if I do that, I'm going to put a brown lunch bag over my head. They don't need to see the rest of me. That's no, that's pretty cool that you're going into that. I'd be curious, kind of hearing about all these things that you've done and the ways that you pushed yourself. Tell me, let's take it back in time a little bit. So whenever you were making that transition to working for somebody else to working for yourself, like what was your mind going through in that season? I mean, because obviously you've kind of expressed it here, like you're like, you did the day job, you weren't feeling it. Were you nervous, or how were you getting ready for that?
So real estate investing for me has always been and still is a side hustle. It's something that I invest my nights and weekends in to the maximum extent that I possibly can. And that's still till today. I do have a full-time employment and I like what I do. Yeah. But I also like investing in real estate and growing my money and having something to do that's purely for, you know, not there's money involved, of course, right? I wouldn't do it if it, it didn't make money, but
Sure.
It's something to continue to work at and move forward on. And, to me, when as an adult, I've lived, this is a number well over a decade ago now, but I've lived the life where the thing was a day job and then go home and, play video games all evening or watch TV. And I was I was miserable. Because to me, there was nothing really to work at and continue to improve upon. And those things, nothing against video games. There's nothing wrong with it, but
sure.
To me, I need to have something that to work on and really, really focus on and put energy into and continue to progress and learn and move forward. And also, it doesn't hurt that those types of things help you disengage from all the negativity out there, right? I mean, we don't have TV, right? We don't have cable. We don't watch the news because at the end of the day, those things are just sucking your mental energy away. And you'd be surprised, honestly, how much time and energy you have if you take all of those things away and apply that energy to something, for yourself.
100%. 100%. So it sounds like, you realize at a certain point, you're like, okay, well, I'm feeling kind of burnt out with maybe the way things are going right now, and running this, because I think everybody does it, right? Where you can just zone out for 8 hours. There might be 8 hours, 10 hours that you were just throwing away every day and feeding into this cycle of like never making intentional progress. So now that you're kind of balancing, what does your work week sort of look like now that you're like dedicating more time? You've killed your TV, and you're dedicating all this time towards things that are growing you as a person. What does your work week kind of look like now that you're doing that? And how do you strike that balance? So
sure. I think everything in life, especially, again, years ago, I was in a day job where I was unhappy. I didn't feel like the growth direction was a direction that I wanted to go. It also wasn't germane to my particular skill set or interest. So, and I was incredibly unhappy at that time. And that was a long time ago. It was my early 20s. I think the most like satisfaction you can get is when you're doing things where you can see opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn. Obviously, making money is a good thing, opportunities to add value to other people. And to me, somebody said to me the other day that we were talking about like satisfaction in life and everything. He was trying to, and he had the best intentions about this. I don't want to bring it down, but he was trying to, help motivate me by getting me to believe that the position that I'm in right now, just in life in general, is the worst case scenario. And I get what he was saying. He was just saying, okay, so this is as bad as it can get, and it's actually not that bad. So there's no reason not to go for it. And I appreciate what he was saying. But my pushback there is I've actually been in a worse place in life. And I still remember what it felt like to be, that down and to work on something, that for a job at the time that was not the right fit for me. And I was just completely miserable all the time. I was severely depressed. I just didn't have a trajectory in life. There was no way I was ever going to be able to get a girlfriend, much less a fiance, which I now have, and we're getting married next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I mean, that's just been, and this is again, where we are now is 10 years later. So it's been a process of growth, and to me, you talk about nights and weekends. I mean, when you're doing things in your nights and weekends that are fun, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, I mean, exercise is a good thing. I love exercise, but
sure,
you can have fun writing blog posts or recording podcasts or, whatever, doing real estate deals, and naturally is, what we do in the real estate space. But I think those things, they give you energy. And to me, if you're, again, 10 years ago, I was in a position where I was unhappy with my career. I didn't see a path to growth, and well, I shouldn't say that. I should say the path to growth that I saw was not a path that I wanted to go down. It was just the wrong fit for me. I knew it, but I didn't really understand it at the time. It took me a little while to figure it out and see a path out. And I think that's the worst. I mean, to anybody out there, if you're, listening right now and you're in a position where, you completely hate your job for whatever reason, well, work on that. Work on trying to find something that's better for you to do. That's a better fit for you, because I believe for most people out there, that thing is out there, that is available to you. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? It took me years to figure out what trajectory I wanted to go in, and it took trial and error, if you will.
Yeah.
But that's life.
It really is. It really is. And whenever you were deciding to, I guess, get into, I guess I want to ask a little bit about this too, because I was like, I think that a little bit of wisdom that people would be curious about, because there's tons of people that are like, oh, I want to get into some form of real estate investing, like what you do. I mean, it seems like something that takes some, just takes some wisdom to be able to get to a point where you know what a sound investment is. Do you have any kind of like starting point or a strategy or an approach that you go at whenever you're looking at if it's worth investing into something or not?
So now the point we're at, and the point that I've gotten to investing in these deals is, you underwrite the deal and basically determine, if it's a deal that fits our particular strategy or not. But it didn't start that way. It took a long time and a lot of work to build the partnerships where we're going to be able to have the deal flow that we need to be able to actually have things to invest in, especially now that the market's tight and everything, and deals have slowed down. That's okay. We deal with what the market presents us and try to make the best decisions. But the people who are just starting out, and again, I was just starting out years ago, and we're never completed as real estate investors or entrepreneurs, or whatever you want to call it, as people who are trying to contribute in some way or grow. We shouldn't see these things as being done, right? I'm learning things every day. Every podcast interview I do on my show, I try to learn something and walk away from. That's why I was having the conversation with somebody else about that I mentioned before about the general, satisfaction. And, maybe I agree, maybe I disagree with what he was saying, but okay, I still, learned something. And again, I got to reinforce within myself the progress that I've made in my life and happiness and satisfaction over the last 10 years. But holy crap, it's 10 years. It would have been great if I could have done it in 2 years, but I got it done, So I'm not honestly sure where I was going with that. But for folks that want to start investing in real estate, I mean, the first things to do are, look at yourself and determine what you really want to get back out of your real estate investing. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun to do real estate deals, but the fun isn't the world's greatest motivator, right? Maybe you want to retire early. Maybe you want to travel more. Maybe you have charitable causes that you want to contribute to more. I mean, to me, my personal priorities have shifted over the years as I've, gone and done more deals, and charitable activities have become a lot more important to what I'm doing, because I see the longer term implications of those things, and the satisfaction if you are contributing to a cause that you believe in. I'm not telling you what you should believe in. Pick what makes sense for you, but I think that just helps propel even faster. It's just more of a motivator. Yeah. So
100%.
Determine what you want to get out of it, and then really the next step is to learn and dig in, and spend a long time learning about how real estate investing works. I think people who get in trouble early in real estate are the ones who are looking for the quick fix, the get rich quick, the how can I make, whatever large amount of money within the 90 days or something like that. And those things are possible if you really work at it, but it may not be a realistic goal. Maybe you work at it for the 90 days and you didn't make that money. Well, maybe if you keep going, you would end up earning that money. But a lot of people, they get to that 90th day, to continue with the example, and they say, well, I didn't do it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the next place where people, fail to succeed in real estate, is they just kind of quit and they don't work at it, and they don't just continue pushing forward and stumbling and learning. I mean, those are the kind of the biggest things for newer real estate investors, is to, identify your actual goal. What do you want to get back out of it, and kind of, set your vision for what it needs to look like.
Yeah.
2, learn how real estate investing works, learn about flipping, learn about wholesaling, learn about, burring, learn about raising money, learn about how debt works, everything along those lines. Learn about different asset classes, not just multifamily. I invest in self-storage as well. And then you have to work at it. I mean, and I feel for these people, but they're people, if you go to local networking events, you'll just see, oftentimes they're called seminar junkies. They're just constantly, buying the next education program and not applying the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe it's a common term is shiny object syndrome, when you're bouncing between one shiny object to the next. I certainly am susceptible to that. And I didn't start moving forward and making progress until I recognized that and shut out those shiny objects and cut myself off from those shiny objects and focused. That's how I started, making progress in my real estate investing. So there are so many pitfalls as a beginner, but I think goal setting, education, and taking action are like the 3 core aspects of success and moving forward.
I couldn't agree with you more either, Taylor. I mean, because I see it all the time where everybody wants to sign up for this. I actually hadn't heard of the term seminar junkies before, but I really can. That kind of hits the nail on the head, I feel like it's so important to, if somebody's taking the time to share this information with you, maybe apply it, see it to the end, work it, and see what actually happens. How do you, I guess, when it comes to absorbing information now, what's your approach to applying a new method and deciding if it's even worth going down that route in the first place? Whenever you pick up something new or anything like that, how does that, work for you typically?
That's a good question. So I think first I need to, when I'm thinking about something in the real estate space, whether it's, whether I want to apply it or not, is I need to think about what are the problems, or what's the problem that I'm facing at any given time, whatever it is. What's the next thing that I need to do or add to my real estate investing business? And think about that core, Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. What's my one thing right now? And think about whether this new thing that I'm considering moves me down that path, addresses that one thing or not. If it does, great. But most things don't. The one thing is the one thing. That is the one thing I need to focus on. So, sometimes depending on whatever the thing you're considering happens to be, maybe you just shelve it in your mind and think, okay, maybe I'll, hang on to that for later and reconsider that down the road. Or maybe I'll write it down. Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I'll just, wad it up and throw it away and move on. It totally depends on the situation. But I think it needs to work in terms of what's my goal and what can I change or what can I add to help meet that goal, rather than finding new things and just trying to apply them. Right. We need to have our sails, all pointing in the same direction.
Absolutely. No, that makes, I think that's a great perspective to have. I heard recently priorities should not be, we shouldn't use something to the effect of we shouldn't use the plural form of priority, right? Sure. And hone in on exactly what it is that you're trying to execute and make sure that everything is pushing in that similar direction. It's something that I see kind of a term that keeps popping up in regards to like the work that you do is this concept of, passive income. People are extremely curious about passive income. Passive income is kind of interesting too, because it's obviously, it means that eventually you'll have, income coming to you, but The problem is, I think you get the seminar junkies and people that are maybe expecting that they'll just hit it big one time and they'll be good to go and they can chill out and do whatever they're ultimately wanting to do. How do you define, I guess, when you're talking to people and sharing about this, how do you define passive income and explain that concept to people?
Well, if you're speaking in, general terms about, say, real estate investing, I think, we all talk about passive income is great. That's what we want. I've had folks on my podcast, one guy in particular who said, I think very wisely, that passive income is the wrong term. It sounds great. Of course we love it, but it's much more accurate to call, say, like real estate investing income, residual income, because we had to do work on the front end to get that quote unquote passive income coming in. So it's more residual, because passive income a little bit, kind of makes it sound like something for nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's not how the world works. We need to set up these systems or make these investments, if we're just buying a deal, if there's a passive investor in a deal, okay, maybe you can say that I invested equity and I'm earning passive income from having invested in that deal. But really, it's residual from the sense that, okay, maybe you're a doctor. You had to earn that money in the first place to invest it. Now you're just allocating it to a particular strategy that's going to put off, some kind of cash flow. So really, I think residual income is really the best way to think about it. Honestly, it's a lot less appealing than passive income, right? Passive income sounds a lot better. I mean, I love to win the lottery. I don't play the lottery and never will.
Yeah.
But really the best way to think about it is residual income, because real estate investing is work. It takes work to make money. Again, where people get in trouble in real estate is thinking that they can get something for nothing, and then they maybe go for a quote unquote investment that was really not an opportunity in the first place, just because they were attracted by a particular sales pitch or something like that. So I'd say think about it in terms of residual income. It's a lot less sexy to think about it that way.
Sure.
But I think that's the more accurate way to think about income from real estate.
Totally. So I'd be curious. I know we've been talking a lot about, everything that you've been a part of. If you were to talk about your singular mission right now over the next couple of years, what's the mission that you're on right now, you think?
So I have a few missions. So when we talked about the kind of the reason that I mentioned charitable contribution, if you will, is, for me, we were talking before we started recording, my fiance and I have 3 cats, and, honestly, if she had it her way, and we're dog sitting this weekend as well for one of my relatives. So there's going to be a dog here very shortly as well. And then, that's great. So we both, really love animals. She's vegan. I've been vegetarian since 2015. So for me, my particular charitable action is animal shelters. I donate some money to animal shelters, but my goal is to donate an awful lot more money to animal shelters. And I don't publicly say the number because it's a truly ridiculous amount of money. And it's a beyond the stretch goal for me. But to me, that's what's important. I think everybody that I know personally and who I've spoken with who got to the point financially where they could retire and sit on a beach the rest of their lives. Some of them who have done that, well, no, I should rephrase. Every single one of them who have done that, who have retired and gone to sit on a beach and thought, I'm just going to live a life of leisure the rest of my life.
Sure.
They all get really bored.
Yeah.
At the minimum, they get bored. At the worst, they get depressed. It's actually worse than when they were, having something to do all the time, and they go back to working in some way. And I think that again gets back to that previous discussion about, dissatisfaction, all that kind of a thing is like, we need to, in whatever we're doing, I think it's good for us to like seek satisfaction and seek to add value to others in some way, in our own, unique way. Just to bring up my fiance, for example, she teaches at inner city schools, and she gets, fulfillment and also an awful lot of frustration,
Sure.
and that's mostly from the administration, but public school stuff. she gets fulfillment out of, helping these kids, and she really, really genuinely cares about them. And, for folks out there, I think, just think about that for yourselves, and, what makes sense for you. I have, friends in this space whose passion is human trafficking and supporting charities that, either go after human trafficking or help their victims in some way. That's very important. It's an awesome cause. I have, friends who are big on adoptions and supporting adoptions.
Yeah.
That's a great cause as well. I think
Absolutely.
that having that deeper cause, that you strive to support is more important than for your own life satisfaction, is more important than, almost anything else. It's something as maybe lame or grandiose as it sounds to say. I mean, it's something to live and work for. I mean, maybe for folks out there, that's your kids. Well, I don't have kids, so I can't give that as an example. But whatever that means, I think that's the thing to focus on and put some substance behind it.
Yeah, and put your money where your mouth is, like that's the thing. I mean, if you have a cause like that you can get behind, I fully agree that it would drive satisfaction in life, just because, I mean, maybe there is somebody that says, hey, once I make $45 million, I'm good. Once I make $2 billion, I will be happy, and that will be wonderful, and I can go to bed. But I don't think that there's really any human that's wired that way. Even when you look at like the way that our brains work, the funny thing is that we don't even get the satisfaction feeling, the dopamine, from actually completing the task as much as we do on the hard work that we, get leading up to it. That's where like the satisfaction feeling comes from. I don't know, when you think of it that way, it's like, well, dang, I'm going to hardwire myself to have a goal that I am just going to go after infinitely, So I think that's incredibly powerful that you found that, that mission for yourself. I think it's honestly refreshing to hear, because a lot of people I know, they're like, doing just to do, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, you might end up like that old man on the beach that you're talking about. And you certainly don't want to end up in a position like that at some point.
Yeah, and so something's coming to mind as you're mentioning this. Old man, I think, is what spurred it. Again, the same person I talked with the other day that I had alluded to earlier about satisfaction and the worst life and all that. Well, another thing that he said that I thought was great and spot on is, what would 90-year-old you say? What would 90-year-old you say to you right now?
Sure.
And you can think, okay, what would I say to myself 10 years ago, a decade ago in this example? What advice would I give to myself, or something along those lines? And okay, I can project backward, but I can do the mental exercise of projecting forward. What would 90-year-old me say, to me now? And just think about things in that way. And I think that framing of how to think about like decision making, and what are you going to do, and what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your day? What are you going to do right now? Well, okay, I don't mean to crap on watching TV too much. I mean, I like The Simpsons. I just don't spend all my time watching The Simpsons.
Yeah.
But would 90-year-old you say, go ahead and, take this weekend off and don't do anything? Or would 90-year-old you say, keep working, keep pushing forward toward your goals, but also, on the other hand, just to bring up an example, okay, your spouse wants to go on a hike this weekend. Go on the hike. Like your relationship with your spouse is more important. Those kinds of things. It's not all about working all the time. That's just an example, because we went on a hike the other weekend. She wanted to go on a hike, and it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did. So it's kind of taking that whole thing into account and thinking about what you down the road would have to say. And there's so much going on in the world, right now and always, and throughout history, there's always something big going on. I see everybody's worried about what's going on in Ukraine, and it definitely concerns me too. But I have no power over that situation. Mm-hmm. I can stay, reasonably informed about what's going on. But if I spend my entire day worrying about what's going on over there, and the people and the victims and everything, and what's going to happen, well, then I haven't accomplished anything. I haven't accomplished anything for myself. I haven't accomplished anything for them. I haven't accomplished anything for, let's say the animals that I want to support or, whatever your thing is. So I think it's important to just think about the longer term implications of the actions that you're taking, right now, today, this week, and so on.
Absolutely. And thinking about, I love the idea of thinking about your realm of impact and what you have to do to get to the next stage to, increase that radius or whatever it is. I also, the 90-year-old, 90-year-old me reflecting, that's definitely something that I'm going to use, I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but I'm convinced that at one point in my life, I saw 90-year-old me time traveling in a gas station. It probably didn't happen, but I'm convinced to this day, and I bet he'd have some choice words for me. But Taylor, it's been a pleasure, man. Usually, whenever I close out, I like to ask if you were to give one piece of advice to somebody that is going to go down a similar road as you, what would that piece of advice be?
Commit, and I don't even want to say because that gets out to more than one piece of advice, but especially in real estate, if you want to move forward, if you want to make progress, if you want to accomplish things, if you want to buy deals, whatever, if you want to make money in real estate or whatever it is, you have to commit to the actual process. I don't, whether you want to start a YouTube channel and make money on YouTube, well, just sitting around thinking about it isn't going to do anything for you. Yeah, you can learn about title card strategy and whatever, if that's the way you want to go. But at the end of the day, you got to go make a video.
100%.
And honestly, the first one is not going to be very good, but that's okay. You have to make that first one to get to the 100th one. And I think anybody in this, in whatever space, if you go back and look at your first thing as the first podcast interview you did and listen to it, I know I've done this, go back and listen to it and you just think, man, I am an idiot. At least I think that. I was like, why did I say that? Why did I ask that question? Whatever. Why did I ramble so much? I don't know. I'm rambling here, but commit, keep moving forward, whatever your path is.
Absolutely. Taylor, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everybody find you and follow you and absorb all this knowledge that you're putting out there?
So I host the Passive Wealth Strategy Show, available, on all the podcast platforms. I also have a free 7-day video course on red flags in passive real estate investing for anybody who wants to get into the passive side of real estate investing. That's at passiverealestatecourse.com. Just me sharing 7 red flags that I've found that cause more deals to go wrong than anything else, I suppose, in my observations. Not everything that could go wrong, but it's probably the 7 most common things that I've come across in my years as a real estate investor.
Excellent. All right. Well, hey, it was a pleasure. Thank you again. And everybody, check out Taylor. And this podcast will be coming out soon, Taylor. So looking forward to sharing it all over the place. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Gem Series, the podcast for anybody dedicated to investing in themselves. If you would like to see the resources mentioned in this episode, learn more about what we are up to at Rocket Level, or come over and join our team, just click on the links below. Until next time, this is Blake Chapman, and remember to be awesome and do awesome things.